Here are some worries of food that everyone needs to be aware of. This list is in no specific order. Hydrogenated oils. Unlike traditional fats, butter, tallow, lard, olive oil, etc., our industrial seed oils are a very new addition to the food world. In fact, they were practically non-existent until the early 1900s. But with the invention of certain chemical processes and a need for cheap fat substitutions, the world of fat hasn't been the same since. Let's compare the process of butter to the unnatural process of seed oils. Butter naturally is created when cream and milk have separated. Skim off the cream, shake it for 5 minutes, and you have butter. Now let's compare that to the production of canola oil. Step 1. Find some canola seeds. Oh wait, they don't exist. Canola oil is actually made from a hybrid version of rapeseed, most likely genetically modified and heavily treated with pesticides. Step 2. Heat the rapeseeds at unnaturally high temperatures so that they oxidize and are rancid before you ever buy them. Step 3. Process with a petroleum solvent to extract the oils. Step 4. Heat some more and add some acid to remove any nasty wax solids that formed during the first processing. Step 5. Treat the oil with more chemicals to improve the color. Step 6. Deodorize the oil to mask the horrific smell from the chemical processing. Hopefully, at this point, you can see how not real these oils are. This is 100% a fake substitute to tallow or lard. They've been linked to reproductive problems, low birth rates, hormonal issues, obesity, mental decline, liver problems, and definitely linked to cancer and heart disease. Mention is rarely made of the very toxic substance rapeseed oil also contains. Oleic acid. Not only does it irritate mucous membranes, but damages the myelin sheath around nerves and interferes with the use of vitamin E by the body. This led to it being banned by the FDA in 1956 and the development of new strains of rape in the mid-1970s with lower levels of oleic acid. And, as an aside, do you know why much of the rapeseed oil produced in North America is called canola oil? Canola is a combination of can from Canada and ola as in oil, referring to rapeseed with lower levels of oleic acid originally bred in Canada. It's also a clever piece of marketing, distancing the new rapeseed oil from the original one with its well-known health problems. While it was thought that the new forms of rape with their lower levels of oleic acid would not have the same health problems, unfortunately, this has not been the case. In addition to the concerns already mentioned above, the new strains have been linked to the weakening of blood vessels and cardiovascular disease, as well as to the development of amyloid plaques in the brain and Alzheimer's disease. More generally, they have also been linked to cancer, diabetes, and obesity. So unless it's beef tallow, lard or extra virgin olive oil, then it's toxic. Emulsifiers. This is a rather overlooked ingredient in a lot of foods. Emulsifiers are hard to avoid. In the UK, there are 63 different types in the food supply. We've done a research study showing that more than 6,000 foods in the UK contain emulsifiers. An emulsifier is used to combine water and oil. It is structured with a hydrophobic side, which does not like water, and a hydrophilic side, which does like water. So one side is helping bind to the oil or the fat in the product, and the other side is helping bind to the water. Here are some examples: E471, mono and diglycerides of fatty acids, E472E, diacetyl tartaric acid ester of mono and diglycerides or DATM, and E481, sodium stearoyl lactylate or SSL. If you think about how they combine water and oil together and turn into this kind of soap, emulsifiers are also used in detergents. This makes the gut lining more vulnerable to penetration of specific dangerous microorganisms. Animals were tested and the effects in mice of two common emulsifiers, CMC, carboxymethylcellulose, and P80, polysorbate 80. They were fed water containing either CMC, P80 or neither, and it was found that the mice consuming the emulsifiers had dramatic changes to the diversity of their bacteria. They had a reduction in the number of different types of bacteria in the gut. We don't think that is a good thing to happen to your gut microbiome. Greater numbers of pro-inflammatory bacteria were present, But this wasn't all. In the mice that consumed emulsifiers, the mucus wall that protects their guts was much thinner. The emulsifiers had emulsified the mucus, so some of it had been dissolved away. This meant the bacteria were much closer to the lining of the gut, which is a very dangerous thing to happen as that lining is our barrier. What it also showed was that there was much more leaky gut-the passage of bacteria, but also other molecules getting through the lining, causing more inflammation. It looked as though these emulsifiers could be driving inflammatory disorders of the gut such as Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. So this no doubt correlates to humans too. Artificial sweeteners and natural sweeteners that masquerade as natural. Just to name some: saccharin, sweet and low, sweet twin, acsulfame K, Sunnit, sweet 1, or aspartame, NutraSweet, equal. And sweeteners such as sucralose, as in Splenda. Now for some brief history as to how we ended up like this. In 1907, saccharin was already widely used in sodas and canned goods, but most Americans had no idea it was in their food. As part of a series of sweeping food and drug reforms, Harvey Wiley, the head of the Chemical Division of the United States Department of Agriculture, recommended banning saccharin for possibly being toxic. The sweetener was eventually banned in 1912, but the decision was reversed during World War I, when sugar rations necessitated the use of saccharin as a substitute. Once the war was over, people continued to enjoy the calorie-free sweetener. The introduction of a sweetener called cyclamate to the American market coincided with the diet soda boom of the 1950s. Cyclamate is what sweetened Tab and Diet Pepsi, and what filled the iconic pink packets of Sweet and Low. The substance was discovered in 1937 when a University of Illinois grad student working on a fever-reducing drug tasted something sweet on his finger during a smoke break. Yes, this really is how science works sometimes. That was cyclamate, a chemical that's 30 to 50 times sweeter than sugar. By 1963, cyclamate was America's favorite artificial sweetener, costing 1/10 of the price of sugar and with 0 calories. By 1968, Americans were consuming more than 17 million pounds of the stuff each year. That all came to a halt when the sweetener was proven to cause bladder cancer in rats, resulting in an immediate ban by the FDA that's still in effect. It took more than a decade for the next big artificial sweetener to pick up where cyclamate left off. In another accidental discovery, James Schlatter, a research chemist for G.D. Searle and Company, licked his fingers while developing a new ulcer drug in 1965 and, yes, tasted something sweet. That was aspartame, an amino acid compound, a mixture of aspartic acid and phenylalanine, that is 200 times sweeter than sugar. Not to mention that aspartame is made of the feces of genetically modified E. coli bacteria. So all diet drinks essentially contain poop. After a hold-up with the FDA in 1974, when approval was paused due to claims that aspartame caused brain tumors, after some lobbying and payments, the toxic sweetener finally hit the market as NutraSweet in 1981. Sucralose, which was later marketed as Splenda, was created in 1976 when scientists found a way to molecularly bond sucrose molecules with chlorine, the same chemical found in swimming pools. One researcher was asked to test the chlorinated compound, but misheard the request and tasted it instead. The researcher survived, and in so doing paved the way to a product that is about 600 times sweeter than sugar. Now come to the modern day, and the stores are filled with drinks that contain aspartame, saccharin, and the not-so-natural stevia, masquerading as a green, eco-friendly, healthy, safe sugar alternative. Let me say it like this: there is no replacement for natural cane sugar. Even bleached white sugar is better than what we are going to discuss now. The artificial sweeteners found in diet drinks and literally thousands of other diet or sugar-free foods and beverages. The problem is that these are chemicals, and the body does not know what to do with them. Recently, when a sugar tax was applied, I noticed all drinks in the store contained acsulfame K, aspartame or stevia, except Coca-Cola, Pepsi 7-Up, and Rio, which still contained sugar, which would indicate they are stubborn on changing the ingredients in these legacy drinks. This is a big problem for anyone wanting to buy a drink other than water, as they're pushed into a corner where most likely they will pick a drink with an artificial toxic sweetener. This is called forced purchasing. I've been talking this same stuff for over 20 years and now I can discuss it here without fear of retribution. The World Health Organization, who I won't even go into what is wrong with them here, but they are being forced to admit the synthetic sweetener aspartame is a potential carcinogen, which is only a half admission as it's well documented the product is a cancer-causing compound. Data has also shown that artificial sweeteners interfere with the microbiome, which is again tied to weight gain, diabetes and depression. The artificial sweetener, erythritol, was linked in one study to an increased risk of heart attack. Other studies have indicated that metabolites, or substances produced during a metabolic process, within aspartame interfere with the neurotransmitters in the brain. Those suffering from migraines are warned away from these sweeteners. Finally, studies have looked at links to stroke and dementia. The selling point is that diet or zero drinks and diet foods will have 0 calories. My question to you is, what would you rather have? A few extra calories and weight gain using regular sugar, or dementia, Alzheimer's, or cancer using artificial sweeteners? Your life is in your hands.